moment.
Yeah. Welcome, everybody. This is the Life Enthusiast online radio and TV network, restoring vitality to you and to the planet. I'm your co-host, Scott Patton, and joining me, as usual, is Martin Patella. We have a very, very special guest today we want to share with you, and I'm really excited to learn a lot more about this because I think it has a huge impact on aging, which is obviously a topic dear to my heart, and also your overall health. So, Martin, who's joining us today?
Today we have with us Matthew Yankee of Tiva Technologies. Oh, actually, I'm not sure. I only know Tiva. We need to fill in the blank. Matthew, please tell me, what am I supposed to call your company?
Well, first of all, my name is Matthew Yankee. I'm from Farmington Hills, Michigan. My company's name is Planet Earth Products. Should I be looking in the camera or at the screen? How's it usually?
Camera.
Camera, please.
Okay, Planet Earth Products is the name of my company. That is probably going to change in the future, but for now it's Planet Earth Products. We will probably change it to probably Master Plan Nutritionals at some point. But for now, Planet Earth Products. We also have a co-company that we are a part of in Switzerland called Tiva, SA. And Tiva in Swiss is basically a way of saying natural foods, things like that, as that was explained to me by the owner of that company. And the two of our companies met years ago, and we've been bringing in the organic silica products to the U.S. since then. So that's my company, and that's the name.
So Matthew, what can you tell us about Tiva in general? What makes them special?
Okay, well, Tiva is a company that's relatively old over there. There's a couple of people that work in the company. The guy that I've been working with for years, Lucian, he has basically been the formulator for the silica, and he's kind of like the developer. And then there's another gentleman who owns Tiva, and they've been selling things like spirulina and powdered foods and different supplements, waters and things like that in Switzerland for a number of years. The main thing that I feel is important for anybody listening or watching this to know is that if you've ever dealt with people from Switzerland, they are very, very, very straightforward, honest people. It takes a while to get to be kind of in their inner circle. You have to gain their trust through a lot of very determined effort to show them that you're a very hard worker and you're honest and you're straightforward as well. But they're very, very concerned with quality. I mean, if you think of Switzerland, what do you think of? You think of pristine mountains. You think of unbelievable watches, great chocolate, high quality things, you know. That's what we bring from Switzerland to the U.S., and that's what I like people to know about the company that I work with, that we are extremely committed to quality. We're always looking at improving the quality of our products. We never sit on our laurels and say, wow, we've got a great product, we don't need to do anything else. We're always looking at it. In fact, every single conversation we have is always centered around some sort of progressive movement toward improving the product, getting it less expensive, fine-tuning the equipment that we use, finding a better and cheaper way of shipping, you know, things like that. We're always looking at that, and to the point of it's almost extreme when I've talked to other people and how they handle their businesses, but I actually like that fact, and I think that is extremely important for people to know. I mean, there's a lot of health food companies out there. This one, I've worked with a lot of health food companies for over 15 years. This is definitely the one that I feel the most comfortable with because they're so committed to making the best products possible, which is along my type of thinking as well. So, most important point, I think that's it.
Good.
Yeah.
And so what can you tell us in general about silica or silicone as it relates to the human function?
There's so much information that you can go into. Simply put, silica is a mineral. It's very, very abundant on the planet. Actually, 33% of the Earth's crust is made out of silica. But that does not mean it's abundant in our foods because a lot of the silica that is in the soil is actually part of highly stable rock forms like granite, feldspars, and things like that. So the plants can't readily get at it and pull it out of the soil, and this is a problem because 100 years ago, mineralization of the soil was a lot better. And this is a big thing in the natural food movement, is depletion of the soils. But along with depletion of the soils, you also have increasing technologies that are toxic to humans. And so both of these are like a double-edged sword that is cutting away at our health. And the big thing with silica is, and this is the most important point about it, is that our bodies use silica to repair damaged cell tissue. Silica in general, I'm not saying my product in 100%, but just silica in general, that's the function of that mineral in our body. It's not very readily available to us in our foods, but we never needed a lot of it in the past. Through the advent of technology, the movement forward of chemicals and bad foods and stress and electromagnetic cell phone towers and all of the other things that are killing us and damaging us or whatever, we have some heavy metals in the air, nuclear energy. These things are all damaging us at rates that we were never ever exposed to before in the history of mankind, and we haven't evolved any protocols in the body to deal with this. And so we do what we can. Well, silica is being used more and more every day because the cell tissues are being attacked and assaulted tens to thousands % more than they ever had before. And so we've seen a trend where 50 years ago, supplementation with silica was never needed. You know, you just weren't damaged like you are nowadays. But now silica is being depleted in a person's body. They've shown research studies that have concluded that by age 30, some people are almost depleted of silica completely. And so this has become a gigantic problem. And along with that, we've seen all of the resources starting to move in that direction of all these other types of minerals like zinc and boron that are now becoming more prominent and important for our bodies. But silica is the one that I'm most focused on.
All right, good. So I would like to have you comment on the different forms that are available in supplements. We certainly have hydrosilicic acid that is popular in the market, but we could maybe go with understanding the difference between mineral and organic, and how the organic is absorbed, and then in general concentrations, what's useful, what's not.
Sure, I love talking about that. That's a very easy subject. Basically, you have a couple different forms of silica out there in the world, in the market. The first one that's very popular is literally silicon dioxide, and you'll see this mostly as a filler for supplements. If you look at the ingredients, it's one of the last ingredients, but it's almost always there. That's basically finely ground sand. That's inert and not absorbable. Well, it's basically like eating rock dust. You know, very finely ground rock dust. Yeah, your body can process it and get rid of it, but in the end, is it what we want in our bodies? No, it's not. Like the difference would be like they have chalk, okay, and that's calcium carbonate. That's in a lot of supplements. A lot of health supplements use calcium carbonate as a filler, so they can only say, they might say, oh, we've got a calcium lactate supplement, but 50% of it is calcium carbonate as a filler. Well, yeah, you can ingest that, but is it good for you? Well, we all know the answer to that. So the difference between my silica and other silicas is basically you have calcium carbonate, which is like chalk on the chalkboard. They put it in different products. And then you have cheese or carrot juice or milk, where you'd have an organic version of calcium. That is the difference between the silicon dioxide and my product. And the reason is basically there's more carbon attached to the molecular structure of the atom. And there's another couple of forms out there of silica, colloidal silica, which is basically the same thing as a non-organic form of silica, but it's made to such a small molecular size that it can get through the cell walls. But does that mean we want it there? Not necessarily. I mean, just because we can fit it into the cell doesn't mean it should be there. And actually, in my personal opinion, is it shouldn't be there because we're forcing it in a way to get in there when it really shouldn't have been in there in the first place. Another one is orthosilic acid. That is the more common one that you're starting to see, and this is basically a non-organic form of silica, but it's somewhere between organic and complete rock form. And that's basically what happens when the body takes silica into it. The body's digestive system and different chemicals will attack the silica and change it to an orthosilic acid of some sort, or silicic acid. and that's what is sort of absorbed by the body. And so what manufacturers have done is that they've created, without it be already being digested by the body, they've done it for you, and so that when it gets taken into the body, it's slightly more absorbable, which is fine. But it's I don't think, and I've seen a lot of studies to the contrary, that my product is basically organic silica. The chemical name for it is monomethylsilane triol, and that is basically the description of the molecular structure of the silica atom. And it basically has more oxygen, hydrogen, and especially carbon, which allows it to go directly into the cells, because it's like you just ate a piece of lettuce, carrot, strawberry, cucumber, it doesn't matter, that had organic silica in it in the first place. We've cut out the middleman, which is the vegetable, taken it straight to organic silica, and we've basically bonded it to a water molecule. And that's kind of the cool thing about our product, is it's actually part of the water molecule, and that's what's neat, and it goes right into the system, and that's why our product is so absorbable, because it literally is just attached to the water, goes into the cell, and it's absorbed completely.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Matthew, could you discuss the individual product? Now, I would like to know more about the Tiva organic silica concentrate.
Sure.
Please tell us how it's different from other things, and why should a person use it, and how should they use it?
Okay, so our silica product, if you look at all the other silica products on the market, the one that we have is the most concentrated form, the most, I believe it to be the safest form and the most natural form. The ingredients basically are water, citric acid, and monomethylsilane triol. We've actually figured out how to bond the water and the silica molecule so close together that we don't need toxic stabilizers and parabens, which is a huge, very, very important point, because a lot of products still use parabens and these other things to stabilize the product, which we do not at all need to use. We have two products. We have a gel and we have a silica liquid. The silica liquid is basically, there you go, yep, is basically a liquid container. It's 16 ounces. You put it in the fridge. This picture does not show the little plastic cap that comes on top of it, but on the top of the bottle usually is a plastic cap that you can pour the liquid into and take internally. I highly recommend, if you buy the product, once you open it, to put it in the refrigerator. It doesn't necessarily go bad, but that's just the best way to keep any liquid product. Normally people will take 1 to 2 tablespoons daily. You can take more. What's really a good point of note about our product is it's very, very safe. You can actually take a whole bottle of my silica and drink it in one day, and it would not hurt you. I've done it to test it out. It's water soluble, which is really cool. But anyways, when you take it, you're going to notice a slight taste, a slight mineral taste, but hardly anything. If you mixed it with stuff, it's not a problem. But it's very different, because if you see any of the comparable products that are liquid-based, silanes like mine, they're all going to be usually in bigger bottles or very, very small bottles, and the concentrate out there, the closest one that's very, very small, like where you just use a couple drops, is a salicylic acid-based one. So I don't recommend that or promote that one at all. But the two that are basically the same, you'll have one, you actually sell it, it's Organo, it's 32 ounces, and then mine is 16 ounces. I believe we have 4 times the amount of silica in there in our bottles in comparison to the other product, and it's a smaller bottle, and it doesn't have a taste, and the ingredients I think are slightly different. That's the only other product on the market that's slightly comparable to mine, but again, our price point is lower, which is great, and it's got a higher concentration, which is what we've been working on for years, and we're continuing to work on that. We're actually having conversations, I would say bi-weekly now, where we're trying to figure out how we're going to bring the cost down. Whether we bring shipping here, we're figuring things out, and that's the big difference. Is I'm proactive. I didn't mention this in the beginning, and I'd like to point it out. I'm not just some salesman. I've been working with this product for about 10 years. I worked in a health food store for 10 years. I managed a health food store for 10 years. I worked 80 plus hours a week in a health food store. I'm an enthusiast of health products. I mean, I am a major proponent for this lifestyle. I go out in the woods, I pick things off the ground, roots, burdock roots, dandelion greens. I come home, I make green smoothies. I am extremely involved in holistic health, and I will be for the rest of my life. I've made it one of my great life's works. And so that connection between me, the people, and the products that we're all using, I think is very important, because I think there's a lot of companies that sell products that they aren't part of it like I am. You know, they haven't met the people, they haven't gone out, they saw a niche and they said, well, we'll make a product for that. That's not what this is about for me. I have shed tears, I've shed blood, sweat for this product. I've met the people, I've seen the changes in their bodies, I've talked to them on the phone for the past decade. I'm very involved, and that's not going to stop. And that's very important for people to know, because I'm committed to making the product better, but also making sure that I always sell a product that works. And that's something that I could never do. I could never sell a product I didn't believe or know worked. And that's what convinced me to sell this product in the beginning, is I saw how well it worked on people.
That's wonderful, Matthew. So you've talked a little bit about some of the stories that you've heard, or you've been on the phone with some people about. So can you share that? Like, what are some of the things that someone who uses the product could expect to see in a couple months if they were using it as they should be using it?
Sure. There's a numerous amount of things that a person will notice. I'd say the first and foremost thing that they're going to notice is the difference in their hair or fingernails. Almost within a week's time, you will notice that your fingernails are starting to grow faster and your hair is starting to get thicker or grow faster. Because basically, silica, and this is another important, there's so many things to talk about with silica, but silica basically is the cement between the bricks of protein in our body. We have these things that are called glycosaminoglycans, and that's basically a fancy word for collagen, skin, organ tissue, bone tissue. It's the proteins of the body, basically. Well, you have bricks in a wall, those are protein. What's the cement between the bricks? Silica. That's its function in the body. It's the most important structural agent in the body, mineral-wise. It holds these things together. You break a bone, it's right there at the termination point of the bone as it's beginning to heal, a concentration of silica to draw the calcium, to draw the proteins together and form that bone. It's very important for that. So the things I've noticed, right off the bat, hair and skin. They just say, wow, I'm seeing such an improvement. I'm seeing such a development toward a positive light. I will stress this point majorly. I mainly sell the product for two things: for joint support and longevity purposes, rejuvenation purposes. Basically, this is a great cellular strengthener. It really helps to keep the integrity of the cells of the body strong and supported. But people have primarily been buying the product for 80% of the time or better for joint issues. They'll call it up and say, wow, I really noticed after about a month or two of taking it that I've seen a lot of support for my sore knee or my elbow issue, or my back at the end of the day isn't as stressed as it used to be. And then after they've taken the product for 4 or 5 months now, I can't claim cures and all these other things, but I will say they happen to believe, and they have told me many times, that they feel the product has made a great difference in their life. That's the biggest thing. I mean, I'll go to shows, I'll meet people who have been taking the product and say, well, I heard you're at the show. One of the best ones was in Chicago at the Health Freedom Expo. I used to go there. And yearly I'd have people come back and buy half a case to a case to hold them off to take for the whole year, because they're so happy with the product. And I would say, well, what did you notice? Man, I'm just so flexible. And these are like people in their 60s and their 70s. They're like, my flexibility has returned, my elasticity has turned. But you also will notice a big improvement in the skin. And that's where another direction I'm going into is actual cosmetic applications. The gel being one of the greatest health food products that I've seen for joint support, is extremely good for getting the skin to be improved. Especially if you mix it with there's a great product, Olive Gold, that I like a lot. It's a good product. I usually use the Silica Gel, and I'll put it on the skin, and that you can immediately feel the tightening of it and the strengthening of the skin. But then after that, I'll put the Olive Gold on afterwards. And I don't know, I'm 32, and most people say I look 22, 23, and I've looked basically the same for 10 years. It's kind of become a weird thing between my friends, because they're all getting older and looking older, and I'm kind of staying the same. and it's just kind of funny for me. But it's what I've done my whole life's work on so far. I want to stay young. I want to be healthy, and I feel like the silica is a major proponent of that because we're missing it. Almost no food has enough in it to keep us supplied throughout the day. You can't go eat a bushel full of cucumbers to supply the silica you need. You just won't be able to do it. There's no food that I know of that you can do that with. Now, if you want to get calcium, you can eat sesame seeds with the hulls on, make them into a sesame seed drink, things like that, where you can get these calciums, or pumpkin seeds or sunflower seeds for magnesium. But you just can't find foods with silica in it. This is a way to do it, and that's why it's been working so well for people. But also, unfortunately, the other reason it's been working so well for people is because we were so depleted, and the society and the world is actually taxing us, and we've created a vacuum for silica. But the product is great. I kind of got lost track. I was just talking. I forgot what the question was, but hopefully.
Well, it's time then to ask another question, and that is, okay, I got a bottle of the OrganoSil, and what should I do? Like, drink it all at once, or have a tablespoon a day? Like, where should I start, or like, what's the recommended? But like you said, I'm starting from a deficit position. So how can I get myself up to what would be like a healthy level of silica in my body, and then go from there in a maintenance level?
Okay, so generally a person should take 1 to 2 tablespoons of the OrganoSil silica liquid a day. Depending on your price point, or what your available funds are, and also your age, and also some of your history, those factors and variables come into play. For instance, if I had injured myself, whenever I have injured myself, I recently actually thought I had a hernia, but I don't. I was taking 2 to 4 tablespoons of the silica a day. Even though I'm young, I was upping it during that time period, which I recommend to anybody during those time periods. You could always take more. It can't hurt you. You can't take too much of it. Whatever you take, if it's too much for your body, you'll just excrete it and you won't use it. So you'll waste a little bit, but you'll at least be saturated with it. The biggest thing is 1 to 2 tablespoons a day over a 4 to 6 month period should replete most of the lost silica. Now, there's no actual studies that I have done with this particular product. There's been studies done on silica in general as far as that is referenced, but for the most part, this is my countless conversations that I've had with thousands of people over the years saying, when did you notice the biggest difference between 4 and 6 months? That's when it hit me that I had really seen some great changes, and that's when it seems to really kind of not level off, but that's when they're really feeling good about the product and they're saying, this is great. And then if let's just say you did it for 6 months and you stopped, well, what would happen is basically you begin to use the silica that you have in your body that's stored in the cells and saturated. Eventually, I think you would run out. I don't know the time frame. My suggestion is to at least take the product for 4 to 6 months, get the silica saturated in your body. If you decide to stop taking it, great. I would highly recommend taking it maybe at a lower dose and then coming back to the full dosage 6 months later for 4 to 6 months. It depends on the person. If you're older than 50, I wouldn't go below a tablespoon a day, and I would just stay on that. And that's what I have most of my customers doing who are over 50. I'll go back to the question you asked. I had a family of people that live out in Minnesota or Wisconsin, and they used to go to the massage therapist twice a week. They're older couple in their 60s or 70s, really nice folks. I met them through Acres magazine years back when Charles Walters wrote an article about my product. But basically, they told me that after 4 or 5 months of taking the product, they didn't notice a whole lot of change in the beginning, but they bought a case, so they took it anyways. But at the 4th or 5th month, it just hit them like a ton of bricks, and they felt great. And they literally told me that they did not have to go see their massage therapist again more than once a month. And they've been doing that for, I think, the past 3-4 years. And they're actually coming up to ordering their next case pretty soon. So there's lots of stories like that. I mean, if you ask me a question specifically, I could probably tell you, but I mean, I have thousands of stories about people saying those exact same things to me about the liquid. Okay? Do you want to go into the gel?
Yes. So Matthew, let's talk about the OrganoSil Gel.
Okay.
Let's hear about what it's made of and what its purpose might be.
Well, the gel is made out of the same product and material that the liquid is made out of. Basically, and I should explain this, we take regular silica, okay, we take basically like a pharmaceutical grade silica into a laboratory, and we react it with organic acids and things to break it down and change the chemical structure to a more organic molecular structure by adding the carbon and the oxygen, the hydrogen, things like that, but mainly carbon. This is the gel right here. We have it's a really nice pump cap that is sealed once you put the cap, the clear cap back on. It comes out in basically a very clear, kind of jelly-like wet liquid that smooths out over the skin very easily. It does not leave a residue. It does not leave it's sticky for the first couple of minutes, but after that it's pretty much completely absorbed. And if you look at wherever you put it, you'll see that the skin looks actually younger. The skin is tightened up. We use it because it's more concentrated than the liquid. A lot more concentrated. And so basically people who have joint issues and need joint support directly to an area, and they don't want to wait the 4 to 6 months for the reaction time to happen with your body absorbing it and going through all the processes, then I would use the gel directly. I have a lot of athletes that use it for their knees, their neck, their shoulders, their elbows. It really not only, and this is a very interesting good point too, not only does it help with the stress, the breakdown of the joints, the support of the collagens, the cementing of the calciums to the bone, but it actually is a very good mover of fluids in the body. And that's actually, I had this explained to me by a medical doctor last year at an expo in Chicago. She said, do you know what silica does as for the transmission of fluids? I said, I haven't found a lot of information on that. She goes, it's extremely good at getting the fluids to move in and out of the cells. So basically what she's saying is that the motility of fluids between cellular transmission increases greatly whenever there's a high concentration of silica, which transfers over to what? More lubricated joints, better movement of circulation, which you need to get anything fixed in the body to get the minerals and the nutrients in there. So there, again, it lies another great potentiality of the product to be helpful to the human body because it does support increased movement of fluid transfer throughout the body. And that's scientifically proven. You can look that up, and I have, and it's pretty cool. So anybody with any type of joint issue, anybody with in any cosmetic field or massage field could greatly benefit from using the silica or buying it and using it in their practice because it's only going to make what you do better. Chiropractors love it. I have a lady in Southfield who is a dermatologist, and she uses it with on like scarred like burn victims, and she says she has some great results with that and magnesium oil. I know you guys are big with magnesium oil. She says that and magnesium oil are great at breaking the scar, breaking down the cross-linking of the scar tissue and getting the movement of the correct fluids in there, circulation, and also getting new skin. And that's what she told me. So.
Okay. So what is actually the gelling agent? How is the gel different from the liquid?
We basically just methylcellulose carbose.
Okay. So just liquid paper, really.
Basically, yeah. It's a very natural thing. In fact, you could. I had a guy, and he brushed his teeth with this stuff all the time, and he says he's never had a better gum teeth looking situation.
Structural support and integrity.
Can I just say this though? That's not what I sell the gel for. I would, if you're going to do that, I highly recommend using the liquid. Although there's no toxicity problem with the gel, I just don't recommend it for that. You can get probably the same benefit by using silica at night to brush your teeth. The silica water. I'm sorry, OrganoSil.
All right. Okay, and any stories? No. Well, we discussed how much a person should use. Again, this is probably more concentrated, so.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. 3 to 5 times a day for an acute situation for somebody who just really wants to work on it. I use it as an aftershave. So whenever I shave, I'll put it on my skin and I'll put the O2 oil on there, or I'll put some ormus oil on there, or magnesium oil. I have a magnesium spray. I like to use a lot of different things. You can't overuse it, put it that way. And like I said, combine it with anything. I've seen it work wonders. I mean, the biggest thing is whenever I'm at a show, I don't even try to sell the product. When a person comes up and they ask me about what I'm doing, I'm saying I sell organic silica products, and they say, well, what do those do? I said, do you have any joint issues? And they'll say yay or nay, and if they say yay, I say, hey, I have a seat right here in this chair, and I say, where is it? And they'll say it's on my knee or my elbow. I'll say, here's the gel, try it on, they'll rub it in, and I just have a conversation with them for 4 or 5 minutes, and after 4 or 5 minutes, they usually tell me that they're feeling some sort of reaction or difference. Now, again, we're not changing the structure of the body, and it's not a pharmaceutical product, but what it's doing is it's actually initiating cellular responses and changes in the system. Maybe the movement of fluids is moving so that the pressure isn't as bad anymore. I don't know because I'm not inside the cells, but I see great reactions. And that's how I tell people to use it. I say, if you think that it might help, try it out, and it probably will. So I can talk about the inventor a little bit if you want.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This is an important point for anybody who's really interested in kind of getting background information. The inventor of the product was a really famous French scientist named Lole Ribal. He was one of the first men to own a privately owned electron microscopic lab, and he basically developed a system of microanalysis that allowed him to be one of the most successful criminal forensic investigators in the entire world. He was able to go to a crime scene, and he would pick up the knife handle and he'd examine it, and he'd be able to look at it underneath the electron microscope and see fibers from the person's skin on the thing, or he would match the fibers on of the wooden handled knife to the sort of suspect's hand. He would see the same fibers in their hand. I mean, he had like a 95% success rate, which is unheard of even I think today in the investigation of these types of things. But as a sidebar, he liked to investigate minerals, particularly sand. He had this fascination with looking at things underneath the electron microscope, and one of his favorite things to look at was grains of sand, because it just, when you look at it in that close of magnification, there's some really neat structures that are revealed. And that's when he discovered organic silica. He was looking at a grain of sand, and he noticed what he looked like a form of silica, but it was almost looked like a flower. And he investigated further, and he looked at, he called them silica blooms, but he looked at it further, and what he discovered was that this was a different form of silica on the grain of sand. And he looked into it further, and he discovered that it was an organic form of silica, basically meaning it had much more carbon to the structure of the atom. And that's how he discovered how to make the product, is he was looking at these grains of sand and discovered that, wow, this is another form of silica, and he basically was able to figure out how to synthesize and make the organic form of silica from that process. And it was a combination of, there's a great article that's written by Charles Walters from Acres Magazine, and it's called Silica and the Microbe's Kiss. And it's a wonderful article written by Charles, who I knew personally, and he took the product. He really loved it. And he wrote the article, basically it's called Silica and the Microbe's Kiss, and it's about how these little microbes, diatoms, will munch on the silica and excrete organic acids and help develop the organic form of silica through that process. Also, I think the heating and the cooling and the swelling and the contraction of sand being on a beach also had something to do with that as well. But regardless, he was a very, very smart man. He ended up upsetting a lot of people in the government over there because he was so proficient at discovering the truth of a crime that he began to make the government, at least the criminal investigation departments of the government of France, look inept. And he kind of basically came out and said that you guys don't know what you're doing, and this is a shame because there's all these cases going unsolved. And they came after him. They shut down all his contacts. He was forced to stop his usage of his private electron microscopic work. He wasn't allowed to farm it out for work anymore. And they basically bankrupted him. And he went on the run and trying to make his life better. He decided to try to see what he could do with this silica product. And he became what you would say is an underground urban legend, because he was known as this guy who would go to a country, he'd set up a shop, and he'd develop this product, and he'd end up being like this magician. He'd help thousands of people in the area until somebody would come and say, hey, you're not allowed to do this. He goes, well, I'm not making any money off of this. These people give me their goats and chickens or something like that. Just I'm not charging for this. I'm doing investigative work. And he ended up doing this for a long time, moving from country to country because basically they came after him for practicing medicine in France, which he never did. He never charged for any of his visits. He just would give it as a free administration for research purposes. And he just had a really hard life. I knew him personally at the end of his life. I've read his book, his life story, a number of different times. It's a very, very unbelievable, interesting, tragic story about a brilliant man who discovered something that was very, very powerfully good for the human race. And one of the greatest things, and I don't want to focus too much on it because you could talk about him for hours, but he was so serious about his, he didn't sell out, basically. He was offered millions of dollars to bury the discovery or give it to a pharmaceutical company or whatever, and he basically, there's one story where this guy came up and he had this duffel bag of money and he wanted to give it to him to bury the discovery, and lo and behold, just literally took him out on his coat and threw him out his front door because he was so upset, because he was so concerned with being true, with saying the truth. And that's what got him in trouble his whole life. He could not lie. He had to tell the truth. He stood for the truth. He discovered a great product, and it basically cost him a lot of pleasure in his life because he was always being hunted, hounded, which we've heard this story a million times from different people that have discovered great things and been persecuted for it. All the way from Galileo all the way up to Louis Rebaud.
Thanks. That's really fascinating.
Yeah,
We're going to post the links to the articles, to the Akers article, and to the life story of Louis Rebaud on the webpage nearby.
Great.
Awesome.
Okay, so before we head out, because I think we're pretty much near the end, we've been working with a lot of people who are suffering from fibromyalgia, so they're in constant pain. Have you had any experience with the silica and people that are basically in chronic pain?
Well, you see, I can't say yes to that question because fibromyalgia is the actual medical term, and to say that the product can change that wouldn't be. I am not allowed to say that. You're just not allowed to say it because I haven't proved that medically yet and spent millions of dollars to do it. What I will tell you this is that if you look at the research concerning minerals and what they do in the body, we all know minerals have different functions in the body. Calcium is good for the heart, the bones, the absorption of magnesium. Zinc is good for the immune system. Magnesium is good for muscle contraction, things like that. Silica is good for repair. It's good for the joints. If you look up online, you type in silica, what is it good for? Organic silica, what is it good for? It will show you thousands of pages and articles that relate to, oh my God, this person took silica and this is what happened to their joints. They improved. This person used it for their bones and they found that they had more bone mineral density. I mean, almost every single test that I have ever seen in relation to skeletal structure, they've shown that any type of silica supplementation improves the BMD of the body. Not the most absorbable form, which I believe mine is, but any form of silica. This could have been silicon dioxide. This could have been silicic acid. So my point is I always try to make is that although I can't say it's going to help a medical condition, I do know and have met many people who've had joint issues and they've used the product with other products, but mainly my product, and they felt very good about it. They kept buying the product and they kept telling me, man, I really like the product. It really seems to have made a difference for me. And that's what I'll say. I won't say that it's going to cure anything because I don't know. But I do know that it has made a difference for thousands of people that I've talked to personally. One. Two, if you look at any research in concern to what silica does for the body, it helps with the repair of the structures of the body. And fibromyalgia has to do with the structures of the body. So there's a support system there that is used whenever a person takes any mineral. Mine, I believe, it happens to be the most absorbable form of silica in the world, and the most available. It's the least inexpensive. I mean, and this is a really good point so that people can know. People have always asked me, well, why don't you just eat horsetail herb, or Equisetum arborescens is the other name for it, or corn silk? And I just tell them, Yeah, that has, or bamboo silica. Yeah, that has silica in it, but the problem is your body has to take out all the other things and look at just the silica. If you take horsetail, you're getting all these other nutrients in there too. And you can only take so much of a horsetail drop before it becomes toxic. You can't drink a whole bottle of herbal tincture. You're not supposed to. You're supposed to take 40 drops 2 or 3 times a day. That's nothing. 1 tablespoon of my product is close to almost equaling what I believe is to be a whole bottle of the tincture. Now, I don't have exact evidence pointing to that or not, but I do know this. I have plenty of people who've taken horsetail for years and switched to my product after 1 month or 2 months of using it because it's such a big difference. So hopefully that answers your question.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
All right.
Everything
Thank you
else
very much,
good?
Matthew. No, we're good. We got
Okay,
what
cool.
we came for.
Awesome.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for sharing what you've learned all these years.
All right.
It's
Any
great.
questions anybody has, please just, you can forward them to me, Martin. I'd be happy to answer them for them. Or, if it's a really serious question, quandary that we just can't get through, it'd be too long for email, they can feel free to call me through you. I'd be happy to help.
Great.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's just close out the recording part. For Life Enthusiast, this is www.life-enthusiast.com. You can reach us at 1-866-543-3388. And this is Martin and Scott, and today Matthew Yankee. Thank you very much for listening.
No problem. Take care.